in the midst of.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a check of the top headlines this hour. US President Donald Trump escalates tensions with Iran, threatening aggressive actions if Tehran doesn't meet US demands on nuclear and missile issues. In a recent interview, Trump stated that without a deal, the US would have to do something very tough amid ongoing talks mediated by Oman. The Department of Justice released over the 3.5 million pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, including unredacted names, following demands from lawmakers. The White House has updated its fact sheet on the historic US-India trade deal, removing mentions of tariff reductions on certain pulses and softening language on India's purchase commitments. A mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge in British Columbia leaves 10 people dead, including the suspect, with over 25 injured in attacks at a high school and a nearby home. Police found 6 victims inside Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. US President Donald Trump escalates tension with Iran, threatening aggressive action if Tehran doesn't meet US demands on nuclear and missile issues. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaches the US for his 7th meeting with President Donald Trump since the start of his second term, focusing on escalating tension with Iran. The emergency discussions come amid US-Iran negotiations. France reels from revelations in a massive pedophilia case involving Jacques Livougle, linked to the abuse of 89 minors across 8 countries over 55 years, including 2 murders. Alphabet has sold a historic 100-year bond as part of a $32 billion debt raise in multiple currencies to fund its massive AI investments. The century bond, priced at 6.125% in sterling, saw overwhelming demand. All right, viewers, let's start with our top focus here. Now, US President Donald Trump is saying that Iran would be foolish not to make a deal with the United States as negotiations over Tehran's nuclear and missile programs continue. Speaking ahead of diplomatic talks, Trump suggested Iran has an opportunity to reach an agreement, but warned that failure to do so could lead to serious consequences. Now, the president has also emphasized that Washington wants a strong deal that prevents Iran from developing nuclear weapons while addressing broader regional security concerns. Trump's remarks come amid heightened tension in the Middle East and renewed international efforts to revive diplomatic engagement with Tehran. More details are expected now as talks are progressing. Let's go across to retired Major General Sudhakar Ji, who is a senior strategic and international affairs expert, joins us from Jaipur in this discussion. General Sudhakar, thanks very much for joining me, and a very good morning to you. Sudhakar Ji, now Trump once again issuing fresh threats to Iran if it does not arrive at a deal as US intends it to. Fresh armada, more fleet headed toward Iran. Netanyahu is also there in the US to have urgent meeting with US officials. How are you viewing this situation? How long before a strike takes place?
Good morning, Kriti. Thank you for inviting me for your show. It's a tall order to speculate as of now, but my take on the whole issue is that this is called the Mutt and Jeff theory, which is being applied. One becomes a friend, the other one is actually the enemy to hammer, and that method is being applied here. But both the stakeholders appear to be the hammer. The only person who comes to my mind as a friend is the brokering effort being made by Oman. Oman is a well-known, accomplished peacemaker in that region. I've been there in Oman myself. And they are the ones who are balancing out. Qatar is nowhere to match with Oman's peace efforts. because Qatar, the hidden agenda is something else different. Oman is a genuine peacemaker. So, having said that, I don't think uh, the kinetic strike is immediate in nature. In any case, the non-kinetic efforts are already on. The cyber attacks are on. The electromagnetic spectrum is being blinded. Power grids are being blinded, and Iran is being subjected to lots of invisible attrition at the moment. However, when it comes to the negotiating themes, the first and foremost thing which Iran is projecting is that out of three things which have been spelled out, that is the nuclear enrichment, uranium, one. Number two, reigning in the proxies, that is the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Hadil al-Saif, and the militias. Number three is basically they are saying that they have to forego their options of carrying out tests and trials of the ballistic missile. They have to, that means surrender the concept. So Iran, rightly, I would say, any self-esteem country or country with self-esteem and sovereignty is not going to agree to forego the options of ballistic missiles and the proxies. At the moment, they are focusing on the enriched uranium, and that also is a very tall order because had Ukraine had the nuclear warheads on its soil, perhaps Russia would have never invaded into Ukraine. Same is the case with Iraq and the Libya and Syria and a host of other examples. So therefore, at the moment, it is going to play around on the paradigm of Mutt and Jeff. One is going to hammer, the other one is going to make the peace effort. Presently, Netanyahu and Donald Trump are the hammers, and the peacemaker is Oman. My take is that the strike is not going to take very soon because it has got very serious implications. Russia and China, they have already, forwarded and they have landed the military hardware, particularly Russian S-400 and S-300 have added on to the existing inventory of Iran. The air defense line which Iran had earlier has been more or less been made stronger than what used to be earlier. Number two, there are also the missile technology and the spare parts to produce a kind of a ICBM which is being speeded up. Presently, Iran has got cruise missiles and hypersonic missiles and ballistic missiles which can penetrate through the Iron Dome of Israel. But the one which I'm talking of is the ICBM with a long range, which threatens the east coast and the mainland of USA, is under development. That is the one I'm talking of. So therefore, to say that the strike is going to take any time soon is just a misnomer and kind of misleading kind of a thing. But given the transactional behavioral matrix of Donald Trump, anything is possible. But at the moment, I'm discounting for a couple of days, maybe another month or so, for any kind of tangible and substantive military strike to take place by either USA or Netanyahu. Back to you.
All right, we'll watch out how the discussions proceed. Stay on with me, Sudhakarji, as we now move on to some news on the from the US. Now, authorities have detained a person for questioning in connection with the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of US television anchor Savannah Guthrie, according to media reports. That's breaking news details that we are giving you, viewers. Local media reports are saying that law enforcement officials are questioning a suspect linked to the abduction. Nancy Guthrie is reportedly being held for ransom, though officials have not released further details. At this stage, no charges have been filed and investigators have not confirmed whether the detainee will face formal accusations. Authorities say the investigation is ongoing as they work to secure the victim's safe release. And we now move on, viewers, to some more news on the Epstein files. Now, US Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has introduced Virginia's law that's aimed at eliminating the statute of limitations for survivors of sexual abuse in civil court. The law, named in honor of Jeffrey Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre, seeks to allow victims to pursue justice no matter when the abuse occurred. Schumer, along with Jufer's family and survivor advocates, emphasized the need for renewed accountability, especially after the release of heavily redacted Epstein files. The bill also targets jurisdictional loopholes used by traffickers to avoid persecution. Schumer and Congresswoman Teresa Liga Fernandez called for comprehensive action against sexual abuse and trafficking, ensuring justice for all survivors regardless of the passage of time. Let's listen in to what Senator Chuck Schumer said.
Today, we're here to do something simple and long overdue. Today, I'm introducing Virginia's law, legislation to end statute of limitation barriers that have kept survivors of sexual violence from justice far too long, and to create new legal avenues to pursue justice. Because justice should not expire. Justice should not expire.
Retired Major General Sudhakarji continues to stay with us. Sudhakarji, thanks for staying on. Better late than never, would you say, as finally now one US Senator has introduced this law?
Well, this is a welcome development, I would say. Any rational and progressive society like that of the United States should not have a law which puts a time limit on the accused to actually seek redressal of the grievances. This is going against the basic tenet of law as per my understanding. So therefore, the steps taken by Jeffrey, the victim's plea, I would say, has got a lot of substance and meaning, and it should be given its due importance and relevance and be accepted. This law should not have any time limit. At the moment, I am told it is 28 years old or 10 years from the date of the event. Such kind of stipulated time limits does not actually augur well to bring in justice to the victims of these such cases, and also doesn't actually project the rule of law in the expected light and expected flavor. Therefore, I would say this particular move should be welcomed by one and all across the board. Bipartisan kind of acceptance should be welcomed. And that's all for the time. Back to you, Kriti.
All right. Thanks for your comment there. We'll keep it brief. There's some more details, news coming up. Viewers, now UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has insisted he will never walk away from the mandate given to him, despite calls for his resignation over the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. The controversy stemmed from his appointment of Peter Mandelson as US ambassador, despite Mandelson's ties to Epstein. Starmer faced mounting pressure, including a demand from Scottish Labour leader Anis Sarwar for his resignation. However, Starmer received support from key ministers and potential leadership rivals. While critics highlight his struggles with government policy, Starmer is determined to fight on, focusing on preventing populist parties from taking power. Mandelson is now under police investigation for alleged misconduct related to Epstein. Let's listen in to UK Prime Minister.
There are some people in recent days who say the Labour government should have a different fight, a fight with itself, instead of a fight for the millions of people who need us to fight for them. And I say to them, I will never walk away from the mandate I was given to change this country. I will never walk away from the people that I am charged with fighting for. And I will never walk away from the country that I love.
And we now move on, viewers. Prince William is in Riyadh for his first official visit to Saudi Arabia, where he's been highlighting the country's strides in empowering women through sports. The prince attended a girls' soccer training session at the Saf Riyadh Regional Training Center, meeting with the Saudi women's national youth team. The visit emphasized the growing role of women in athletics as Saudi Arabia continues to invest in their participation. William also toured Riyadh's sports Boulevard, part of the nation's Vision 2030 initiative aimed at transforming the city. In addition, he joined an e-sports tournament engaging with local players and further supporting the kingdom's expanding sports culture. All right, joining me now for this discussion is Dr. Alvite Ning Thujam. He is the Deputy Director and Assistant Professor at Symbiosis School of International Studies and joins us from Pune. Thanks very much, Dr. Alvite, for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you on NewsX World. How do you view the Prince showing growing interest in Saudi Arabia and pushing for women's participation there in sports?
Right. Good morning. Thank you for having me once again on the show. See, this particular visit of Prince William to Riyadh is a kind of a reflection of this special bond between the monarchies of Britain and Saudi Arabia, which was forged particularly in the early days of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. And the relationship has been flourishing over the years. If you look at the particular visit and the optics that you have been seeing, particularly with regard to his participation in some of the sports events, highlight the kind of changes or the transformation that has been coming within the Saudi kingdom, particularly after they have, started with this Saudi Vision 2030, which you rightly mentioned in your introductory remark. There is also a constant, effort being made by the young Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, to transform the image of Saudi Arabia from being a very rigid and a very conservative society to that of a society which is very opening up.
Yeah.
Transform, and that is very important for for him, in order to not only change the image of the country, but also to help in building up the economy of the country. There is a great amount of effort being given by the leadership inside Saudi Arabia to diversify the revenue sources, not only relying on the hydrocarbon trade and exports, but also trying to build up a lot more industries apart from oil and energy. So this sports event, the entertainment industry, tourism are some very important sectors which have been really promoted by the Crown Prince. And moreover, it's a very great, it's a significant development that women are allowed to enter into this realm of sports. About say 9-10 years ago or more than before that, things were pretty rigid, and you would not be seeing any of these developments inside the kingdom.
All right, let's posture this against what we're seeing in Iran, both countries in the Middle East, while Saudi Arabia is of course signaling, like we were discussing, greater autonomy, freedom for women, their participation in sports. In Iran, the situation is quite the opposite, where women protesters, they're being, there's a crackdown on demonstrators there. Women are asserting themselves in ways that is against the regime. How do you view this contrast?
Are you asking me to compare what's happening in Iran and what's happening in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
All right. See, with the problems in Iran is also very deep-rooted, particularly after the 79 revolution, when the theocratic regime was formed under the leadership of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khomeini. There are many issues pertaining to women's rights, but especially with regard to their participation in the political realm. And also the country has become a lot more rigid in terms of their dress codes, something which we have seen in the last few years also. We all are aware about the Masa Amini's case that had taken down the country for a few days when all the protesters came up and revolted against the moral policing and against establishments closely aligned with the Supreme Leader. It's a very interesting dynamics that we're getting to see in West Asia. On one hand, you have a little bit of a repression or a suppression against the women who would like to participate in the political realms. But in Saudi Arabia, you had begun to see appointment of women leaders even in diplomacy. So that again is a reflection of the changing patterns of the rules and governance inside some of these inside some of the countries in West Asia. Saudi Arabia, of course, is a very interesting case, because for Iran, before 79, you had a very flourishing civil society, including the participation of women. But after 79, you could see a little bit of that being curbed, but significantly, I would say. But in Saudi Arabia, it's the other way around again. Until about 10 years ago, things were pretty rigid, very patriarchal. Still, it's a patriarchal society. But there are certain relaxations being given to women, allowing them to drive. Fashion parades have begun to be organized inside the kingdom. Then you have women diplomats being, assigned to some big responsibilities in other parts of the world. So these are some changing reflections that one could see coming out of Saudi Arabia.
All right. Dr. Nimtuam, thanks very much for joining us in this discussion. And now moving on, viewers, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney is saying that he is devastated by the horrific mass shooting at the school in British Columbia. In a statement, Carney offered condolences to the victims and their families and said the country is mourning following the attack. Authorities have confirmed an active investigation into the matter, with police securing the area and providing updates as they become available. Details on casualties and the suspects have not yet been fully released. Officials are urging the public to avoid speculation and follow law enforcement guidance. And in fact, Canadian police are saying that 2 crime scenes in northeastern British Columbia, where 10 people were found dead following a mass shooting, may or may not be connected as investigators continue to piece together events. Authorities confirmed that 6 people were found dead inside a high school in Tumbler. Now, 2 additional victims were discovered at a nearby residence that's believed to be linked to the incident, while another person died while being transported to a hospital. Police also say a suspected shooter was found dead, apparently from a self-inflicted injury. Investigators emphasize they do not believe there are any additional suspects and say there is no ongoing threat to the public. An active shooter earlier alert was described as the suspect as a female wearing a dress with brown hair. The police say that information remains under review. And we shift our focus now. Let's cover news from Colombia, where President Gustavo Petro says he has escaped what he described as an assassination attempt while traveling by helicopter after his aircraft was unable to land due to fears it would come under fire. Speaking during a live-streamed cabinet meeting, Petro said the incident took place Monday night when his helicopter was diverted from its planned destination amid warnings that armed individuals were prepared to shoot at the aircraft. The president had been flying over the department of Cordoba to assess damage caused by heavy rains and flooding when the security alert was raised. Petro also said he ordered the retirement of a senior police general, accusing him of attempting to sabotage a recent meeting with US President Donald Trump at the White House earlier this month. Since taking office in 2022, Petro has repeatedly warned of alleged plots against him by drug trafficking and criminal groups, saying he has previously been alerted to threats by US authorities. Let's listen in.
Vengo en 2 días, no en brazos del amor, sino escapándome de que me maten. Por eso anoche no pude llegar 2 horas, porque no podía aterrizar en donde dije que había que aterrizar. Pero ni siquiera los donde tenía que aterrizar prendieron luces. En cambio, por la mañana no aterricé donde tenía que aterrizar porque temía que el helicóptero lo iban a disparar. Con mis hijos también. Y hice lo que sé hacer. Entonces cogimos mar abierto 4 horas y llegué a donde no tenía que llegar, pero llegué. Y vengo así. Hay un general que ordenó retirar de la policía. Tenía una misión extraña, alguien le dio la orden, no, obviamente no nosotros, para ponerme sustancias psicoactivas en el carro. Ese tiene que ver con usted. Ya no es su casa, era para eso. Y tenía como misión destruir la reunión con Trump, de alguna manera u otra. Ya se destituyeron varios.
And moving on to some business entertainment news, now a bidding war for Warner Bros. Discovery is intensifying, with Paramount reportedly sweetening its offer in a major way. According to sources, Paramount has proposed covering Netflix breakup costs and other fees tied to Warner Bros. Existing streaming agreements. The move is seen as an effort to edge out rival bidders and accelerate deal momentum. Industry watchers say the added financial incentives could make Paramount's bid more attractive, but complex contracts and regulatory scrutiny remain key challenges. None of the companies involved have officially commented, and negotiations are still underway. Viewers, that's all we have time for. Thanks for watching NewsX World. For all international news and updates.